The special stat was probably Generation 1's most defining mechanic. It contributed so much to Gen 1's broken metagame, creating a lot of really bulky but really powerful Pokemon like Exeggutor, Chansey, and Jinx. Game Freak realized their mistake almost immediately, getting rid of it in the second generation in favor of the special split, where we now had a special defense and a special attack stat. But what if they hadn't? How would modern Pokemon look if you applied the Generation 1 special stat to the modern metagame? That's what this video is going to try and answer. But first, a word from our sponsors. I don't have any sponsors, but I'm thinking of launching a channel membership, and I wanted to know if anyone would be interested in that. I'd give you a shout out at the start of videos, and I'd also give you earlier access to videos before they come out to the wider public. All of the content would still stay free to air, and there would be absolutely no obligation to do it, but I just wanted to know if people would be interested, and please let me know if you are. Before I get onto how special would impact the game, I want to actually talk about how I decided to implement it, because obviously most Pokemon don't have a known special stat. For Generation 1 Pokemon, I've decided to use the stats that they had during that first generation. So whatever their special stat was in Pokemon Red, it stays like that in this modern game. But for the rest of the Pokemon, I've had to make them up. When Pokemon converted special into two different stats, a lot of the times they made special one of the new stats. So for example, Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee only had 35 special in Generation 1, but this was converted into their special attack, and they gained a brand new special defense stat of 110. Gyarados had the exact opposite. Its 100 special was made into its special defense, whilst its special attack was dropped to just 60. Something it definitely didn't appreciate, with it now no longer being able to effectively use its water type stat. As I don't know which of these stats would have been the special stats for the Pokemon that came after Generation 1, and the fact that then I wouldn't be able to calculate what the other stat would be, I've instead just decided to go off an average. So take for example my favourite Pokemon, Crawdaunt. Crawdaunt has a special attack of 90, but it only has a special defense of 55. This means that its average is 72.5, which I've rounded down to 72, as Pokemon typically rounds down a lot more than they round up. This method isn't perfect, it does lead to some weird interactions, particularly with Megas of Generation 1 Pokemon. Both Alakazam and Mewtwo had massive special stats that were converted into special attack, but because I've had to use my method on the Mega versions, their special attacks don't actually change that much. They get slightly better and they get a bit more special defense, but they're not so good that they're worth using a Mega Stone. They're just slightly better versions of the original Pokemon. With this, I was able to use a database with all of the Pokemon on it to calculate what their special stat would be, and also compare this to their special attack and their special defense, just to see who are the real winners and who are the losers. With all of the admin now done, let's get on to the interesting part of the video. Looking at the ends of the spectrum, the Pokemon that changed the least are the ones that already had equal special attack and special defense. Doesn't really change anything for them, so it probably wasn't even worth bringing up in this video. The Pokemon that are most affected by the change are the ones with wild differences between these two stats. It's no surprise then that Shuckle is the Pokemon most affected by it. Shuckle has 10 special attack, but 230 special defense, meaning it now has 120 special. Combine this with Shuckle's 230 defense, and you'd think you have a really strong Pokemon on your hands. But you don't, because Shuckle is still terrible. Shuckle has basically no move pool, with its stab special options being Struggle Bug and Infestation. Its only two special coverage moves are Mud Slap, which has 20 base power, and Sludge Bomb, which is actually a good move, but Poison is probably one of the worst coverage types that you can have. Not to mention that Shuckle is still incredibly slow, and has basically no HP. With its now weaker special defenses, most special attacks are going to do a lot of damage to this Pokemon. Whilst Shuckle is the Pokemon that gains the most special attack in this interaction, the Pokemon that gains the most special defense is Deoxys Attack. It's nowhere near the 110 stat change that Shuckle gets, but it would gain 80 new theoretical special defense from its original 20 to take it to 100, making it considerably less frail, but also limiting most of its power to its physical side. Original Recipe Deoxys actually also gains a lot of special defense too. It's essentially just a slightly less min-maxed version of Deoxys attack. And because of the fact that it's averaging out, these two Pokemon would actually have the exact same special stat now. One thing that I noticed is that the Pokemon that gain the most special defense, or the Pokemon that have a much greater special attack than they do a special defense, are almost entirely not regular Pokemon. You'd have to go to joint 12th in this category to find a Pokemon that isn't a legendary, mythical, Ultra Beast, Mega Evolution, or Form Change, with Vikavolt and Duraludon, both who gain a theoretical 35 special defense. When you compare this to the Pokemon that gain the most special attack, where the top 10 or top 11 as 10th is a tie, is comprised of just 3 unique Pokemon. The rest of them are all just regular Pokemon. I think that this shows that Game Freak really likes making their unique Pokemon a bit more attacking focused compared to being defensive. One mythical you will find on this list is Deoxys Defense. Deoxys has some of the weirdest interactions with this, as it's such a min-maxed Pokemon that it just has some of the most drastic changes. In my opinion, Deoxys Defense probably does the best out of this out of all of the Pokemon. It's the fastest Pokemon that receives a high amount of offense. At base 90, Deoxys Defense would be able to take really good advantage of its serviceable 115 special. But what really sets it apart is its move pool. Deoxys has one of the best movesets in the whole game. It gets recovery, Bolt Beam coverage, as well as coverage for pretty much every type that you could think of. What sets it apart in this game is its ability to use setup moves. A lot of setup moves get really powerful when you combine the special stats together. One boosted move that would lose out is Calm Mind. Not because it gets any worse, it essentially does what it already does, but because a lot of other moves get better. Deoxys gets access to both Charge Beam and Cosmic Power, both of which I think would be very strong moves to have in this new format. Charge Beam now also provides you with a special defense boost, while Cosmic Power essentially boosts 3 different stats. All of these pale in comparison to Nasty Plot, which is by far the best move in the game alongside Amnesia, as they essentially do the same thing. Providing you with a +2 boost to your special will be absolutely game breaking, and in my opinion will be the thing that absolutely means that Deoxys Defense is getting banned. With its amazing move pool and its ability to use one turn to boost 2 stats essentially, by 2 stages, this Pokemon will just become way too strong. Another massive beneficiary of the change is Regice. Regice has also gained a lot of attacking potential, going from 100 to 150. It's still slow and has that bad ice typing, but it has decent enough bulk in an 80, 100, 150 defensive profile. Like Deoxys, it has access to Bolt Beam coverage. In fact, it has Ice Beam Stab, which is great to have, but it also has Amnesia, which is what tips it over the edge for me. Because it doesn't need to worry about its special defensive side, it can invest all in physical defense and just become some unstoppable force that keeps boosting. It would just really snowball out of control. Other Pokemon with now very strong special stats that have access to Amnesia or Nasty Plot would include the likes of Volcarona and Slowking. Slowbro gets completely outclassed by Slowking in this metagame, as Slowking's much higher natural special defense means it has more attacking power. Uxie would also become much less defensive and much less supportive, and have the ability to be a much more attacking Pokemon. Some much more offensive Pokemon who now have some bulk would be Porygon Z, Zoroark, and Hydreigon. And I'm sure everybody will love this, but Goldengo also has a really strong special stat and has access to Nasty Plot. So that would be fun. Having looked at some Pokemon that would be affected by this split, I want to now look at how Game Freak actually handled the special split. I mentioned it earlier, but for most Pokemon, they basically took this special stat and applied that to one of these stats, and then created a new stat for it. But which Pokemon actually lost out and which Pokemon benefited from it the most? Well, I already mentioned the Hitmons, who gained the most special defense, but Wigglytuff actually gained the most special attack. The biggest loser is pretty unsurprisingly Chansey, who went from having 105 special attack to just 35. Another pretty big loser was Generation 1 royalty Tauros. Its special attack got cut considerably, which played a major part in its fall off during Generation 2, as it no longer had the ability to use that massive move pool that all Generation 1 normal types have for some reason. Tentacruel also lost a lot of special attack, and I think it would actually become one of the best Pokemon in this new meta. 120 special with 100 speed is really respectable, and Tentacruel also offers great utility in being a spinner, a toxic spike setter, and just a great Pokemon all round. The Pokemon that lost out the most in defense was Gengar, followed by another Generation 1 staple, Exeggutor, who was one of the most powerful Pokemon during Generation 1. Both of these had their strong special stats turned into special attack, meaning that their special defense was much lower. However, I think if they had their original special stats, they would both return to the spotlight. Gengar would now have some decent bulk behind it and would still be a really powerful attacker, while as Exeggutor would be a top tier sun abuser, now being both bulky and strong. Exeggutor's stat line would be really respectable, with its only bad issue now being speed, and that's something that it can buff up with Chlorophyll. I'm definitely going to come back and explore some of the interactions that would happen if the special stat was reintroduced, but what did you think of this? Because I thought it was really interesting and a fun experiment to do. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking or subscribing, because everything helps and I hope that I've earned it. Thank you.